guys call my bluff on this 1917 Lee-Enfield No.1 Mk III that is old enough to have seen both World War I and World War II? What'd you guys call my bluff on? Well, that was on the front handguard. If you guys remember, it's divided into two pieces. It's supposed to be one. Right now, the only thing that's holding this all together and in place is the rear sight and the ears on either side of the front handguard. It just floats there in place, and also the barrel band. The front handguard is cut right underneath the barrel band. So in my previous video where I restored and cleaned this up, many of you suggested that I should actually repair it instead of replace it. And you guys provided me a wide range of helpful tips and tricks, and I'll be deciding shortly if and which one I'll be using. Before I received your guys' comments and suggestions, I had actually placed an order for a few things on eBay. I bet you can guess what one of them is. So we'll be taking a look at the situation of the handguard and what I received to determine whether or not we'll be replacing the handguard or repairing it. And if so, what method should I use to repair it? I might be using one of your guys' suggestions, so stay tuned. But before we can get into that, I have a box I need to open. This box has been sitting up here way too long. I had it before my last reenactment, and I did use this Lee-Enfield at that reenactment along with another guy who used this as well. He kept asking, are you going to add the rear handguard? I said, not yet, not yet. I got to film a video and share it with all of you guys. So he will probably be happy to know that this handguard on the rear is getting replaced, hopefully. But I do not know the condition of the handguards that are in this box. Am I making a mistake by not using a bayonet? Do you guys want to see more packages open with bayonets or with pocket knives? Let's get the arguments started. Now for the moment of truth. Did I lose out big time with this purchase, or did I win? Well, there is the front handguard. There's hopefully another handguard in here, because I was supposed to receive two. The rear handguard and the front handguard. Oh, yep, there we go. There's the front handguard. It looks like it's going to need to be cleaned up a little bit. Unfortunately, it is definitely a little lighter wood than the stock. So is the front handguard. They both need a little bit of cleanup. It looks like there's maybe a little bit of mold buildup in here. So I definitely will want to be looking into treating that as well. But yeah, it looks like it's definitely in serviceable condition and we'll be able to fight another day. Now, just looking at this briefly, this is in pretty good condition, dirty, needs to be cleaned up. I don't know about you guys, I am definitely leaning towards repairing it based on what I'm seeing here. And I think the next steps will require me to take this down into the workshop and try to salvage this. I got some ideas from you guys that I'm going to definitely try out because I think they might provide a better repair that is stronger and hopefully will hold up for many years to come. It really wasn't that long ago when I disassembled this rifle last time in that restoration video. But since then I had it out at a reenactment and also had installed this handcrafted sling. What's great about the sling is it portrays a little bit more of the make-do, the System D mentality of the French Resistance and the Maquis. But it's time to move forward with the story of this rifle and work on this project. I was really kind of hesitant to move forward with this project because, well, let's face it, the wood on these Lee-Enfield rifles, especially this piece, has been around for quite a long time. It experienced a lot of handling, a lot of dirt, a lot of impacts. If not handled correctly, it can fall apart where it's thinnest. And that is exactly where this repair needs to happen. But at the same time, it's already been damaged by being cut into two, probably for a previous repair. So I really don't have a ton to lose here. If I just replaced the handguard, while it'd be one complete intact piece, it's not the piece that was originally with the rifle. So if I'm able to salvage this handguard, that is an awesome win for this historic rifle. Also in this eBay purchase, I received a rear handguard. It does fit fortunately, and it does snap into place, and it does seem to be completely there, but it does seem to be extra thick where the sight's supposed to sit. It seems to raise it up a little bit. Let me know, you experts out there. Do I need to file or sand down a little bit of that wood to lower the sight, or is it supposed to hold up the sight? Let me know in the comments. Almost immediately after opening the box, I did notice what looks to be some fine mold that maybe has built up on the underside of the rear handguard. To treat this possible mold, I'm going to use your standard run-of-the-mill white vinegar to hopefully kill off the mold. I'm just going to clean the surface and soak in a little bit of the white vinegar, and I'm going to let it set for at least 24 hours before moving forward with the handguard. The goal is that by that time, the mold is hopefully dead and the wood has dried out after the white vinegar application. Now, I'm going to attempt a suggestion one of you guys gave, and that was using toothpicks as small dowels to help join the cut back together again. But I need to have accurate markings before I can bore out the holes that will house the toothpicks that will join the two pieces together with a little bit of wood glue. Now, the unique geometry of these pieces creates an interesting challenge to overcome. But being that each of these have flat surfaces on the bottom, it creates a great starting point. As long as I use something of the exact same height to scribe in a line on both sides and on both pieces, the holes should, in theory, line up great. While over the years I have managed to gather myself a collection of drill bits, it was surprisingly hard to find one that was the proper diameter for a toothpick. I have never tried to drill a hole to fit a toothpick perfectly before. I guess there's always a first. The next challenge I faced was, if I have marked each of these pieces of the handguard correctly, how can I make sure I drilled the hole accurately with the tools I have on hand? I do have a drill press, which is great, but holding it perfectly perpendicular so that the drill will find its way down through the wood without bursting out the sides or veering off at weird angles so that the two pieces can't join up equally and perfectly, I had to come up with another solution. So I do know I have some straight edges on the handguard. So if I can match those up with items that I know are a perfect 90-degree angle with some clean surfaces, well, then that ups my chances to almost a certainty. Well, as close as you can when you're hand holding things together on a drill press and using a drill bit that does have a tendency to wander. But those are side factors. Now to find out if my careful prep work before drilling actually paid off at all. Will these pieces fit together appropriately? But before I can do that, I have to cut my toothpicks to length. Well, the pointy ends are, well, just too pointy. So those gotta go. As they're so thin, they won't engage with the recess that I drilled in and the wood glue. So I had to remove a little bit of that. That provides more contact area. But while I was cutting it, it also deformed the toothpick, making one side slightly wider so it wouldn't fit in. Sort of like a Goldilocks situation going on right here. It has to be just right. Now, before I could actually join these together, I had to prep the wood for the glue. There's a lot of oil that's soaked into this over the years, and that had to be removed. So I am thinking of using acetone. Now, I'm nervous to use acetone because it tends to be a little bit rough on the wood, but it does a great job pulling out the oil. The other plus, which really sold this approach to me, was that it evaporates really quickly. So I am carefully applying it to the wood, trying to soak it into the holes where the glue and the toothpicks will have to join in. I need the strongest glue up possible. Now on to the high stakes part. Can these two pieces fit together appropriately? Will all these toothpicks slide into all the correct holes and align so that this can sit flat? Or will it bow? Will it bend? Will it not fit flat when it's all done onto the rifle? This is a major pivotal point for me. As I move to slide these two pieces together and slide and join it together, constantly my brain was thinking, what happens if one of these toothpicks split? What happens if the pockets that I drilled break and basically the joining parts just splinter apart? Then my chances are basically ruined and I'm worse off than what I started with. None of those worst case scenarios happened. I was very thankful for that, and I breathed a sigh of relief as the two sides joined together smoothly. Now, just to make sure that everything stays nice and straight, I clamped it to my workbench top just to try to make sure everything stays nice and straight and hopefully will seat properly onto the rifle once the glue dries. But I have yet to see if this even turned out and if this even worked. I always wait this moment with much anticipation, unclamping the piece of wood that I've glued together. And this time is no different than any of the others for me, except maybe even more anticipation because this has more stake. I don't mean that type of stake. The type of, hey, this piece of wood means more. It's lived through so much. It's probably been around since maybe even 1917. It looks like everything held together. It seems to be a strong joint. Now, I did apparently have one toothpick that popped through the back, so I need to carve that down, smooth it out, so that it can seat properly under the rifle. Now, will it fit? Will it seat flat? Yes, it fits. It works. What a relief. Now I just need to assemble it. But wait, I have one more handguard, the rear handguard. And the wood doesn't quite look right. What can I do about it? How can I fix it? Can I make it look appropriately after I've put all that work into the front handguard? I want the rear handguard to look right as well. So I thought, how do I go about solving this? I need the rear handguard to look a little darker. What do I have? What have I tried in the past? Well, I do have a series of wood stains that I do know looks pretty similar to weathered old walnut of the handguards and the rifle stocks of Lee-Enfields. So I break those out and give it a test. And lo and behold, one of them does match. I did apply a few coats to finally get the dark tone that I was looking for. What do you think? I feel like this matches pretty well. I do not know how long this rifle has waited to be complete, but this moment is when everything comes together. The reassembling of the rifle. Both handguards in place and all the pieces put together, making a complete puzzle of this 1917 Lee-Enfield rifle. I'll take it to my studio, take some photos, and I'll show you them at the very end. That way you can kind of see how this entire piece comes together. I just love these older rifles because they have so many stories to tell, some of which we will never know. This particular rifle was made in 1917, which is kind of cool for me because rifles like this, of a similar age, would have been dropped to the French resistance. Now, I doubt this particular piece was dropped to the French just because of where it came from, but rifles similar to this were. Thank you for joining in on this rifles journey. I do have some photos that I'll be sharing in a second to show you the handguards and how they turned out. Make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, comment down below, and look for that hype button if you're on a mobile device. It's available the first 7 days after it's been published, and it really helps more people get to join in on the story of this rifle and other stories like it. You've been watching Brave Builds, where history, kit, and reenacting all come together to help us build a better understanding of their bravery because their stories deserve to be remembered.